Sure, you don't say that.
That's what, it's not what.
You know what I mean?
We don't even talk about that shit. Why do you think I'm gonna say something?
Like you might actually.
That's the.
Hey, Kevin.
Hi.
Can you hear me okay?
Yep.
Good, good. Okay, guys, we'll get started now. This is gonna be more Q&A style. So if you have any questions, it's coming up here and ask Kevin.
Oh, how are you doing, Ken? I meant to ask.
I'm doing good.
Have you had any more attacks or arrests or anything?
No. All the cases, there are about 7 of us that were arrested, and all the cases got dismissed. So we're feeling good about that.
Good, but I mean, so what do you think that was all about? Just harassment, or?
I think that, like, I was going up to jury trial. So where they SWAT teamed me, they didn't have any case, and there was going to be a jury trial on Monday. The Friday before that is when they arrested me.
Right.
And all the complaints were done after the arrest. It looked like they did that just to weaken my defense. Then they held me in solitary confinement before the jury trial.
And what was the outcome of the trial?
They sentenced me. I ended up doing a plea because they promised a 1-year probation if I did a plea. And then immediately after I signed the plea, they breached it by arresting me. And then they gave me a 10-year sentence instead of 1 year.
Oh.
So they're accusing me of a prohibited weapon.
Right, but
which they have no evidence of.
You said they were giving people 10-year sentences for failure to appear?
No, they gave a 25-year sentence to a kid that failed to appear.
For what's normally considered a misdemeanor.
Yeah.
This is a total gong show, you know?
It's unbelievable.
Huh.
So when they gave me that 10-year sentence, they're charging me for my own supervision, right? So the bill was like over $10,000 for everything. So I paid in 10,000 grains of rice. And I quoted HJR 192 and the UCC 3.603, and they took it. And the whole 10-year probation disappeared.
I want to see if I might do my shit alone like that.
Yeah, that's a good idea.
You know? Because the money system doesn't exist.
No, there's
It
no
proves
money.
it right there.
So we wanted to get your feedback on taking our case to the International Common Law Court.
Yep.
And so I've got about 14 questions here, structured into different groups. You know, first an introduction, then any feedback on our statement of facts, and then discussion on the process and enforcement, and then we'll wrap it up.
Okay.
So just on the history and objectives of the International Common Law Court of Justice, can you walk us through the origins of the ICLCJ and the key events like Brussels session that shaped the early years?
You can see some of the basic stuff at murderbydecree.com under ITCCS archives. That's for the International Tribunal of Crimes of Church and State. But I'll give you kind of an overview. It came out of the first tribunal we formed in Dublin in the summer of 2010. And we did that because all of the cases we had brought forward and all the evidence of genocide and the child trafficking and all that stuff in Canada and the US, we took overseas and began to work with people in other countries. And we wanted to unite people across borders because we're facing multinational crime, right? This with the Vatican and these other forces, transnational criminal organizations, they're called, right? So we formed the tribunal, and we realized that you're not going to get action brought against, in this case, the Vatican in any of the international courts, because you can't try systems or like regimes for genocide, only individuals. So they wouldn't take any of our cases. So we realized we had to set up, it's called, under international law, tribunals of conscience. So citizens can form their own courts and inquiries if the existing courts and governments are compromised. They're complicit in a crime. We have every right, and it's recognized in national law. It's very powerful. It means that your investigation has the power of law. It can be enforced. The verdict of any of your courts can be enforced by other courts. It's one of the reasons when we forced Ratzinger out in 2013, he never left the Vatican because he knew he could face arrest, right? So it's a powerful weapon in the hands of citizens, and we've used that time and again. The most recent case, you probably know it, was the verdict came in on October 6th. And that was the one indicting and convicting the present Pope, Trump, and a number of high officials, their relationship with Epstein, his presence at snuff film parties, and the Ninth Circle cult ceremonies. And as part of that, we just forced out of office his buddy, Timothy Dolan. He's a cardinal in New York. And he's the one who Trump wanted in as Pope. We did a thing about the murder of this priest in Buffalo, New York, Joe Moreno. He had all this evidence on child trafficking in the Catholic Church. He was about to go to the FBI with it. 2 days before he's to leave town, boom, he's taken out with 2 bullets to the back of the head. Police say suicide. So how do you shoot yourself when you're right-handed in the back of your left head? Turns out that they found, and I've worked with the relatives of Joe and other people, whistleblowers in the church. Cardinal Dolan put the hit out on him, right, through various bishops. So we went public with that. The next day, he resigns as Archbishop of New York, and he's in hiding. So it shows you the and also the DA who helped cover up all the evidence, destroyed all the evidence about Joe Moreno's assassination. He resigns, both within the day of us coming out. So it shows you the power when you get a verdict, when you got hard evidence and you go public with it, these fuckers run, and so that's one of the things I really want to emphasize to people. Don't be held back because you think you're powerless. You're not. You guys have so much evidence of how you've been assaulted and targeted totally unlawfully. And so, I mean, you got to stand on that and be bold, but like you've experienced, there's blowback, right? And so it's really important to get out the knowledge everywhere and try to plant 1,000 seeds. As Sam Adams said in the American Revolution, you got to plant 1,000 seed brush fires so they can't put them all out. And so that's kind of the general background. We get acknowledgement all the time from police about our verdicts. That's why when we were doing church occupations, they never interfered because we were standing on court verdicts that these churches were guilty of ongoing child trafficking and murder. So that's kind of the general picture of the power of what the court does. And we want to encourage similar things all over, locally, so people can experience their own power, right?
Yeah. What are the core objectives of the ICLCJ today, and how do they aim to empower ordinary people through common law training and global survivor networks?
Well, the general purpose of the tribunal originally was to bring to trial and prosecution individuals and institutions responsible for the harming of children. That was kind of the original focus. And to disestablish those powers. So, for example, as it says under international law, when any organization is involved in money laundering, human trafficking, arms deals, all that stuff, they're transnational criminal bodies. That includes, for example, the Vatican, the Church of Rome, that do all those things. And you then have the right to not only prosecute, but actively disestablish those criminal bodies by, for example, seizing their funds and property. So under law, we have the right to actually seize the funds, go in and occupy these churches and take them over, which people have done. So it started as that objective, but now the broader objective is to teach citizens everywhere that they are the source of law, that they, going back right to the roots of Magna Carta and common law, that people can adjudicate crimes themselves. They don't have to rely on existing courts, which are completely compromised anyway, as you've experienced, right? They're totally politicized. They're run by whatever regime or person is in power, and they have no independence anymore. So, we have to recreate the rule of law on the ground. And that's the purpose, to be the law ourselves and to rely on our inherent liberty, not only to govern ourselves, but to police and, bring about law in our own communities to protect all the people, right? So you could say that that's how the objective has evolved into something much bigger now, right? And that's in a couple of my books, Governing Ourselves and the Dethroning a Rogue Power about Vatican Crimes. Those two are really important. They're our biggest selling books now on Amazon. And if you don't have them already, I can send you the links to those.
Yeah, I just ordered one of them last night.
Yeah. Good.
How has the International Common Law Court of Justice evolved since the 2014 Vatican campaigns?
Well, like I said, it's not only evolved in the way it sees its objective, but it's had successes on the ground. I mean, it's proved that we can force, the Pope, Bishop of Rome, out of office. And what people forget too is that during that same 1 year period that we forced Ratzinger out in 2013, 3 other top cardinals resigned, including the head of the Jesuits, the so-called Black Pope Adolfo Pachon. It was the same process. Give you an example, Cardinal Sean Brady of Ireland. Do you remember when they found this cistern in Ireland and it was filled with 800 skeletons of little babies, and a lot of them were missing their heads? It was in Tuam, Ireland, on the west coast. This was signs of sacrifice, and it was the Bon Secours Catholic mission, and they've been killing these kids and burying them in the cistern. We went public with that, and within a week, the cardinal who was responsible for concealing it, Sean Brady, he steps down, right? Every time you go public with this, these bastards just step down. Now, of course, they go into hiding, they go on pension, all this stuff. But the point is, it's a message to the world that we have this power. And the closer you get to doing that, the less dangerous it is. Because here's the thing: if you imagine what we're facing as this big thing, beast with tentacles, okay? If you're too far away from it, a tentacle can grab you and destroy you. But if you get right into its innards, and that's what they always say in battle, get close to an enemy, right? Because then you nullify their bigger power. And if you get right into their guts and expose them, they panic, they collapse. It's like the little man behind the mask. So the key is to hit close enough and hit them where they're really vulnerable. With the churches, that was their collection plates on Sunday morning. When we started occupying churches and Sunday services, they collapsed in Canada. Within a couple of weeks, the government started issuing apologies and talk about, truth commissions and all this shit that never happened. But the point is, we got really close to them. And that's why just protesting or doing it from the outside is more dangerous. You got to find a way to get in close to them, often through, insiders. And the good thing about what the court's doing is it's creating a climate where more insiders come forward. Like one of the reasons this Cardinal Dolan stepped down is we had people right in his office providing us information about what he had done, and all the orders he made to get rid of this Joe Moreno, the priest. So that's a thing that we really recommend, that you be as bold as possible and as public as possible, and covering your ass at the same time, right? I mean, it's just kind of common sense in many ways, right?
Jason, did you have a question?
How do we get to a point once we get a judgment from a common law standpoint?
Yeah.
Where do we go as far as like enforcing it? And what I meant as far as like, I know the money system doesn't exist, but I tell people I'll take credits that I can redeem for Federal Reserve notes. So, I mean, how do you get, once you get a judgment, what kind of court do you have to put it up? Do you have to go to the international court to get a settlement?
Well, ideally, if you get a judgment from an international court like the ICLCJ, it has a universal applicability, which means, and again, it depends who you're up against, right? If it's something just in the States, you've got to think of strategically where this enemy of yours is vulnerable and press there. And you need help from existing cops or people in the military. And you've also got to make it clear that in common law judgments, every citizen is deputized to enforce the verdict. That gives us a tremendous potential army. You know, if enough people, citizens, are enforcing a verdict, what the hell can they do, right? And that's why we got to overcome all the divisions they create between us, right? Whether religiously or politically or whatever, and see as our common ground that, you know, the Constitution and the common law enabling of us to govern ourselves and to protect our communities. So, for example, one of the things we do in local common law courts when we set them up is we create sheriffs, common law sheriffs, because you need somebody to deliver the warrants and bring people into court and enforce the judgment. So what we do is we get sheriffs. Often people are trained in this, or you get an existing sheriff like you have in the States, one of your local county sheriffs. You get them to train deputies before the court case so that you have a body of people who you know are going to enforce you and protect the court. That's really important, as you've experienced. If you try it just on your own, you know what happens, right? So, yeah, all of that is different tactics. And again, it depends on your specific case and who you're up against, because you got to modify how you do it depending on who that is.
Good. So, Kevin, I sent you our statement of facts that I drafted. Did you have a chance to look at that?
Did you just send it, or you sent it before?
I sent it probably last night or this morning.
Oh shit! I don't know if I got that. Okay, things get blocked all the time. Could you resend it?
Yeah.
Sorry about that. No, I don't see it anywhere.
I wonder if you could describe what makes a good statement of facts for the ICLCJ.
Okay, we call it a statement of claim, and that's just kind of the original British term for it in English common law, statement of claim. But it's the same thing. In the claim, you state basic facts such as what is the issue, what was the harm done, who did it, and all the details of when, where, and how, and what you want. It's really simple. It's those points. And the best statement of claim should be 1 page, maybe 2 maximum. So it can't be a long treatise. It's got to be a summary, so that like any issue is simple, right? But there's so many things that happen. The temptation is we want to put it all in the statement, and you can't. It just kind of muddies the water. You got to ask yourself, what is the essential issue here, right? Like when they went after you, what was the issue? It's you were being assaulted for no reason, you know, and that's the issue. So I mean, how you understand your case is really important to get that clear in everybody's minds first. Because often when you have a group of people doing a case, they all have it's like touching the elephant. They all they've had a different experience. So they want to talk about the crap that happened to them or the stuff they've learned, but that doesn't make a very good case. Just like when you're bringing a charge, the fewer people you charge, the better. Because that's, you know, it's like you always hear, a court won't take on a case unless, or like, let's say you're a prosecutor, you're not going to bring charges unless the chance of success is pretty high. And that's, you know, talking to cops about why child rapists aren't prosecuted as much. They say, frankly, he won't be the chances is he won't be convicted. because child rape isn't considered that big a deal under the law. It's only got in Canada now, they reduced the mandatory sentence to 18 months for raping a child. You know, it's less of a crime than owning a marijuana plant. Hello. Yeah. So, I mean, you got to take all that into account when you're charging somebody, and how likely is it based on your evidence and the facts that you state that you can get a conviction? Because don't forget, in common law, and you have 12 men and women in a jury, you don't know what the outcome is going to be, right? You don't know what they might do. So that's how a prosecutor thinks all the time. Are we going to be able to convince these people? You know, and we are the prosecution in these cases. And that's the other thing. You got to, as well as a statement, being really clear, you got to have someone who's knowledgeable about the facts and the law to be able to conduct the prosecution. And that's, along with the sheriff, the citizen prosecutor is the most important position, right, in the whole criminal court.
So when I look at what they did to us, it seems like the most important thing is that they were coming after the jurors for our political beliefs.
Right.
So would I frame that as war crimes in the statement of claim?
I wouldn't call it a war crime because that's a very specific thing under the law, but it'd be considered a criminal conspiracy, which is very serious under the law. A criminal conspiracy is when three or more people conspire to profit off the committing of a crime targeting certain people. So definitely you are the target of a conspiracy, right? And usually, I mean, the often people who are proved to be part of a criminal conspiracy can go to jail for life. You know, it's considered a really serious thing under criminal law. So I would definitely call it that, along with stripping you of your civil liberties, violating your constitutional rights, assault and battery. You know, they're all applicable in your case.
Yeah.
Kevin, would it be better if we took the different public servants one at a time, or would you do it as a whole group? You know, for like the whole county that had all the different public servants that work together to come after the group? Do you think it'd be better to take one at a time or as a whole group?
Well, the thing is, when you go after a whole group, they close ranks, right? And they know they have to protect each other. If you target a particular individual who is a real bastard and who you have a lot of shit on and who other people in the civil service don't like, target him. And then they have an interest in helping get him, scapegoat him, right? Think strategically. They divide and conquer us all the time. We can divide and conquer them. You go after a particularly bad example and no one will want to associate with him. And they might turn him in. They may even come forward in secret and give you guys information about how to do it. So absolutely target individuals, because that's there's an old saying, evil has an address, right? So it's not just abstract. It's this particular guy made a decision to go after you and he did this. Find the worst example of that and just bring a case against him or her. And then you'll see a much better ripple effect. If you go after a whole system, they're ordered to just close ranks and it's an impenetrable wall. So you got to find the chinks in their armor, right? So find the worst guy and start with him, see what happens. It's like Napoleon. He was once asked, how do you plan a battle? He said, I never plan a battle. I start something, then I see what happens. Because life, like battles or court cases, are always fluid. You do something, they react. You react to them. Think fluidly. They say that in the art of war all the time. You maneuver around your enemies. So you do something to provoke them and then see how they react. And then get together and say, okay, how are we going to respond and outflank them on that? Right? So yeah, start with some real bastard and work out from there. Right?
Yeah. I think we know who we're going to go after.
Okay. That's good.
In cases like ours involving malicious prosecution and reputational damages, what phrasing or precedents from past ICL CJ rulings would strengthen our arguments?
I'd have to dig into those. I'd have to look that up, and I'll do some research to answer your question. That's pretty important, yeah. So, and we had cases of that. Like we had, when we were conducting court case, some of our investigators were assaulted, and then we included that in the indictment that the defendants had planned that in response to the charges brought against them. So, okay, let me look into that a bit.
Okay. Can you walk us through a step-by-step process for submitting and advancing in a case like ours to the ICLCJ?
Yes. First thing you do is you write up your statement of claim or facts, and you send it to me, and I'll construct it in the format the court desires, and we can submit it. And then they will communicate with you directly and walk you through the next steps. So it's pretty simple. Just give it to me first, and I'll make sure they get it.
Good. And then
Yeah.
what's the process from filing until a hearing or decision?
Right now, the court, which is based in Europe, it's set up in the verdict that came out that I mentioned before about convicting the Pope and all these other guys. They came out October 6th. 2 of the 5 magistrates are actually based in America because it was kind of a across the water case because it involved so many people in America as well. So what I could suggest is that we could approach those 2 magistrates who are based in America and see if they're willing to take this on. And then they're closer to the scene. They'll be able to help you more directly, right? So that to me would make sense because they're still involved in the fallout from this last case. There's people coming forward with more shit on Dolan and these other guys. And the president, so-called Pope, is an American, don't forget, and from Chicago. And so, yeah, we'll do that. I'll recommend to them that they set up a kind of a sub court of the main court here based in America.
Yeah. And what's the timeline typically for these cases?
Oh, I'm sorry. Usually they get to it within 30 days, definitely. And they will begin the process within the month that you send it, that I send it. Probably sooner, things were slower over the holidays and that, but now with the new year, I would say during January, definitely they can begin the process. And then they would be as I would be in communication with you too, about deciding, okay, where do you want to have it? Do you have people willing to take the role of prosecutor and sheriff, and they can act like the judicial officers, like the magistrates. You could also nominate other people who you think would be good magistrates to sit on this court, and think of what you want to call it, right? Have your own name for it, like, I don't know, Texas Common Law Court or whatever you want to call it, right? I mean, think of a name.
Okay.
Evan, we have already elected judges for Republic of Texas, so perhaps and we lost our sheriff, so we'll have to elect another sheriff that can, help coordinate this, because the sheriff needs to be the one that serves each one of the defendants in this case. They need to serve the statement of claims, correct?
Yes. Well, they have to. No. They serve the when the case begins to be adjudicated. The first thing they do is they issue a summons to the person or persons being charged, and you have to have a place where they have to appear. The way you normally do under due process, right?
Okay, so you do basically it's the same process. You notify them with the summons, but generally what you do before a lawsuit in civil is that you have you send a demand letter that they correct this. You give them 30 days. If they don't respond, then you come back with pursuit.
You're right. So that's in civil cases. In this case, in the criminal case, You could try it as kind of a pro to see how they respond. The letter of demand is, the reason it's not used in criminal cases is you know that you're up against overt criminality, and the likelihood of them sitting down and responding to a letter of demand is very unlikely. So in a way, it creates a false expectation among people that this might get a result. Realistically, that's just between people who, are involved in a civil matter. So in this case, I'd recommend that you just go for the jugular and charge and summon, right?
I agree with you. And the good news about this, if the jury is overseas, it'd be much better because we don't particularly want these people to appear. Because these are a very hostile group that we're dealing with. So it's good to have a common law that's overseas,
Hey, Jeremy,
in my opinion.
Sharon, put him into me.
So the hearings would be virtual, right, Kevin?
Not necessarily. That's up for you to decide. We do a combination of live court and like in the first case we did against Ratzinger, we had 57 jurors linked by Skype. But the power of having it in an actual place is that for the participants, it seems more real, for one thing. Of course, from a security point of view, if you guys are being monitored and have already been assaulted, it probably is better to do it kind of online from undisclosed locations. So, I mean, you got to make that decision yourself. Also, you don't have to hold it in Texas. You could hold it in other places around the country, right? In a jurisdiction where you think might be friendlier.
Right, because we're dealing with some very hostile public officials. They have arrested some of us without even having a warrant, believe it or not. They get us without a warrant. And they kidnap us and we don't know where some of the people are for days. That's how bad it's getting in Texas.
It's just over the top. And I mean, this is the thing to let people know that there is no rule of law anymore, right? And so that's part of the appeal. I think part of the work should be, you should make an appeal to Americans everywhere. This is a state, this is bigger than party politics. This is fundamental. What kind of country are you in, right? Police state, of and by the people, right?
It gets so bad that people have to stand up. They can't do this anymore.
Can I say something real quick? Like, I tell some people that this was going on, and when they're leaning towards the left, they said, well, then what do you think ICE is doing? What do you think ICE is doing? So you're gonna like, I'm not I'm an American. You know what I'm saying? I'm not here illegally or under a freaking, deport freaking order, So that's what they say. It's like, well, ICE is doing that right now.
Mm-hmm. Well, it's true. I mean, here's the thing. We got to approach this in kind of in a bigger sense. And, I saw a sign that said, I'm not a Democrat or Republican, I'm an American. And that's a really healthy way to look at this, in the sense that these issues are bigger than what side you're on in any moment. It goes to the heart of what America is, right? And the people govern, right? And they're protected by law and the Constitution. Anybody who goes against that is a threat to the Republic, period. Okay? And we got to realign people on that basis. And hell, the media does everything to incite people against each other. Guess who that helps, right? And so let's start again, kind of, and that's the brilliant thing about these court cases. It allows us to do that. You can put out a call for everybody to come and defend our inalienable rights. It's that simple, right? So anyway, I guess you all know that. I'm not trying to say anything you don't know, but it's really important to always keep that in mind, that they use every opportunity to pit us against each other because they're weak. We have the numbers. We have the law and our history on our side, right?
How does an ICL CJ convene juries and handle evidence?
Well, we do it the normal, we follow, in my book, you've got the Establishing the Reign of Natural Liberty book, the blue one, Common Law Training Manual. It gives you the 12 steps. We put out when the summons is issued, depending on whether they respond or not. Well, even if they don't respond, we put out a call for jury members in the way you normally do, through court. And both sides have the chance to interview the jury members. That, jury selection is part of the early pre-trial process. And rules of evidence work the same way. There's not only an assumption of innocence that prosecution has to, prove they are guilty, but the evidence has to be bona fide. It can't be hearsay. Anyone who makes a statement has to be in an, affidavit, a legal affidavit, and that person who makes the affidavit has to be willing to come into court and to confirm what their statement says. You can never just look at an affidavit without a human being there to say, yes, that's me, that's what I believe. And that's the difference between a kangaroo court, where someone says, look I got it in writing, let's convict the bastard. You can't do that. No, it's got to be confirmed by a human being, not only by a human being, but then corroborated by their witnesses. So don't forget, the conviction has to be beyond a reasonable doubt. If there's any reasonable doubt, they walk, right? That's the law, right?
Yeah, but will the defendant be able to strike jurors from the common law court? Like when a typical trial, both parties get to strike ones they don't want to be on the jury panel.
Yep. It's a wild card. A common law court isn't necessarily going to give the verdict you want.
But we can bring extra jury members, so if certain ones get stricken, they'll be available, because we don't want any U.S. citizens on the jury.
Well, here's the thing. Sorry, say that again. You don't want U.S. citizens.
Citizen is one that resides in Washington, D.C., Guam, Puerto Rico, the Virgin Islands. We want people that are like us, our peers. So if the defendant makes it, which I don't think they'll be present, but if they were, then we need to have extra common law jurors available in case they want to strike some of them from the list of potential jurors. Is that the way you do?
Well, here's the thing. To follow common law strictly, there can't be jury tampering. There can't be one. I'll give you an example. We just had King Charles ordered the killing of 10 natives a couple of years ago because they were protesting diamond mining that he had investments in. So 10 natives are killed in one night as a warning to the chiefs, right? The government then comes in and does a fake inquiry where they appoint only band council chiefs as the jury. And that's a rigged deck. You're not allowed to do that. It shows how fucked up things are in Canada, under this monarchical system. They can just do whatever they want and call it law and democracy. So strictly speaking, you can't affect who's on the jury. You've got to give both sides a chance to select and take down jury members. The jurors have to be mutually agreed upon. Now, considering who you're up against, to get that kind of agreement, it's probably naive. That's probably why they won't even respond to what you're doing. And in a way, it makes it easier for you because you can then just try them in absentia. Now here, this is how we took out Ratzinger. When someone doesn't respond to a criminal charge made against them in public, and you give them 3 days or 7 days to respond and they don't, it's called a pro confesso. They're not contesting what's being said about them. And often the U.S. Supreme Court has said this many times. If people don't defend their good name, they're not challenging what you're saying, and it's a tacit admission of guilt, and they're found guilty. Okay, so often by not even appearing, they've convicted themselves. And I think, frankly, that's going to be the situation you're in, right? And then the real issue becomes not evidence or juror, and I think it becomes, okay, they've admitted to their own guilt. That's a great propaganda piece for us because, look, people, they're guilty by their own admission. But then how do you enforce it? How do you take them out? Well, that becomes a question of politics and bigger power and other stuff we can get into. But I think that's likely going to be your situation, right? That you won't have to worry about jury selection. But who knows? I mean, it depends what they do. It's like Napoleon said, wait and see the response and then see what you're going to do. You need to talk about this constantly. You can't just have a blueprint and then think it's going to work. You start and then you have to act as you go, depending on the situation, right?
Right. But basically, they don't answer the statement it was statement of facts. What was it called, Ken? That we
The charge.
They claim.
Statement of claims. If they don't answer it, then basically they've already admitted guilt, and then it comes down to the sentencing, and the jurors get to decide what the sentence is.
That's right. The judge in a criminal court doesn't have the authority to overrule a jury. They don't have the right to. All the judge does, we call them magistrates or judicial officers. They help the jury understand the law, okay, and they can give the points of guidance and how to proceed in that. But they can't. The jury is the ultimate power and source. The judge cannot overrule that verdict. So yeah, the verdict is in the hands of the jury.
In terms of enforcement, you mentioned public campaigns. What about asset liens or referrals to bodies like the ICC or US State Bar?
Anything connected to the UN or those international bodies, you can write off. They don't operate, in a case like yours especially. They're never going to take on a government, never going to take on the status quo. They're there for window dressing, right? I mean, the Genocide Convention was brought in 1948. So what's that? 70 years? No, 80 years almost. You know how many times it's been used? Twice. The case of Rwanda and Serbia against individuals that the Western powers didn't like, right? So, I mean, these conventions and these ICC and all that, they're just there for display. They worry about when people act and like do what we're doing, right? So in terms of the broader thing, you've got to get public support. You got to think of who your allies will be. Other people who've been targeted, reach out and put out appeals. Have you been targeted by the people who went up to you or the police or anything? We're doing publicize it. Say we're doing a citizens court to prosecute these people, to stop these assaults on our liberties and ourselves, right? We can help you with that.
Yeah, I like that.
Yeah.
Based on our summary, 4 warrantless arrests, breaches of the plea agreement, targeting jurors, is vindictive political purge. What's your initial take on this, on its fit for the ICLCJ, and any immediate red flags or enhancements?
It's a real fit because that's exactly what we adjudicate. Especially cases that we know the existing courts are not going to help you with, right? It's up to us. So fundamental issues of liberty, genocide, crimes against humanity, that's our mandate, right?
Yeah. What one piece of advice would you give us to maximize our impact while minimizing risks like further retaliation?
Like I said, go as public as you can, tell the world what's happened, and recruit allies. You got to build your strength around you. And I don't know where you are. Is it pretty isolated in terms of reaching other people, or you're in a fairly small town, or?
No, it's pretty big.
Is it?
We're near Dallas.
Oh, you're near Dallas. Okay. I just had, for some reason, I'm sorry, I thought it had an image of rural Texas for some reason, but you're in
Yeah, the Dallas-Fort Worth area.
Oh, good. All right. Well, we can talk about that more. Strategy of how to reach out and bring in more support. We'll certainly expensive for you. Well, if you could send me, when you have a statement claiming that, some summary, I'll get it out everywhere. Everyone we know in America, so they know what's going on, what you've suffered.
That'd be great. I know you only had an hour, Kevin. Does anybody else
sorry.
have any questions?
No, I actually have more time. That other call didn't happen, so.
Oh, good.
No.
Fred's in there, good. So they drop the.
Tell them about my case and ask me. I was hoping the board today. I thought I almost come here. You'd be there for scrapping that.
Go on, Joe.
Well, come here. Joe, you can do it. Come on.
We have someone that has been really taken advantage of. He's going to tell you what happened. Here he comes.
Where should I sit?
Bring your chair up here.
I can't see where I'm at.
Well,
Right here.
just look up there at the big screen.
I can see it.
He can hear you good.
All right, well, briefly, I was with a bunch of people involved in the common law court. I didn't think anything of it. I didn't think that I was in any way vulnerable to a violation of statute. The de facto is telling the de jure what they can and can't do these days. So I was ultimately, they came to my house and then they seized all of my firearms. They had no warrant. The warrant they had expired, and it was for somebody else. And it didn't include me or my property. They seized all of my personal arms. And then I was told by the telephone to come down and pick them up at the FBI building or the FBI office. I went down there with my friend Randy Kelton. Do you know Randy?
No.
Randy Kelton, Rule of Law Radio.
Okay.
All right, so we went in there. They grilled me for a while, and then Randy said, "It looks like they're trying to set you up." And they said, were you involved in this common law?" And I said, I have no recollection. I don't remember. I've had a stroke. And so there were 3 or 4 Fort Worth policemen there and 2 FBI guys. And the FBI guys told the policemen to arrest me. And at the same time, Randy said to the FBI guys, he said to the Fort Worth police, "Arrest that FBI man. He's not within any lawful jurisdiction in terms of." So then they brought up a gurney and they took me to the hospital because I wasn't feeling well. And after I went to the hospital, I got checked out. They took me to the jail in Tarrant County, and I was there for almost 4 days. And there was no warrant, there was no charge, there was nothing. And Randy and Darren were running around going to the various courts, and they couldn't find me for almost 4 days. At the end of like 3.5, almost 4 days, nobody knew where I was, and they had been trying to find me. And so they gave me what is called a magistration. Are you aware of what a phony magistration is? It's not an examining trial. There's no provision in the law for anything called a magistration. They just make it up, and then they give you a bond while you're on Zoom, and they let you go. So I was there for 3.5, almost 4 days. No charge, no criminal charge with an attached sworn statement. No, nothing. And to this day, nothing.
And this is after you got involved in the common law court stuff.
Correct. And
So
they still
criminal harassment. Yeah, criminal harassment targeting. Yeah.
and they still have my personal arms, approximately $100,000 worth, and they had no authority to take anything of mine.
Whoa.
None, zero.
Joe, it's Joe, right?
Yeah.
Okay. I would suggest that if you guys could get a video camera, if you want, and just film everything you just told me about what happened to you. And then we interview, Ken, and you get a little library of all these statements about what's happened to you guys. If we could do that, I will blast it all over the world and say, look what's happening in Dallas-Fort Worth area. Like, there's no rule of law, and that's going to get a big response. If you guys could do that.
All right. I'm working with Randy Kelton. I suggest you look up his website, Rule of Law Radio. And he's a good friend of mine, and I don't want to do anything that would upset the apple cart. I know he brought criminal charges against the 4 policemen, and he's bringing criminal charges against, and I'll make sure that you get a copy of those documents.
Yeah, I'd like to and talk to Randy. We got to work together on all this. We could plan how to get this all over the world, because that's your big, help will come if people know what's going on. Right?
I'm almost 75 years old. I had a stroke. They took me and threw me into a dungeon. I lost a significant amount of hearing. It was so noisy, and I didn't have access to my high blood pressure medication, and nobody seemed to give a shit.
No.
So,
Joe,
what do you?
you should think of bringing a case against them for what's happened to you. This is what I mean. These
Right.
kinds of cases of criminal harassment, assault, and injury,
Right.
and violation of your constitutional rights, the whole bit, right? You should really think of doing that. We can help
All
you
right,
with
well, I certainly am not against it. What's
Yeah.
the name of your organization?
that. International Common Law Court of Justice. It's based in 9 countries, including the U.S. and Canada.
All right. So I can't, as far as I can tell, there's no good news other than I'm no longer in jail, no longer being held, no longer behind bars.
Yeah.
Anything that was brought against me has been dismissed. But I mean, this is not a civilized country.
No, and it's designed to get everyone afraid to shut up because it is so illegal and it is so tyrannical, right? We're back in 1776 again, folks. I mean, it's same
grievance.
big circle. Yeah.
Very good talking with you.
Thanks, Joe. Talk to you
Yeah.
again.
Each of the jurors that were affected by this, we're going to do a video and we'll get it to you.
Could
You
you?
can podcast it.
That'd be great. Just the facts of what's happened, all the assaults, right? That'd be great. Thank you.
Direction of the pyramid. Somebody else is coming to talk to you.
Yeah.
Hello, Kevin.
Hi.
I had a case where I was driving through Prosper, Texas, and I had private plates on. They pulled me over. They took me to jail. They had put a $5,000 bond on me, and when I refused to enter a plea, the arraignment judge told the clerk to just enter a not guilty plea, and then they stamped on the paper refused to sign because they never gave me the opportunity to sign. They know I'm going to sign without prejudice.
Mm-hmm.
So then I got bonded out. Otherwise, I'd still be in jail.
For having your own license plate.
Yeah, it said private on the license plate, and I was not driving. I was traveling in private, and I didn't commit any traffic offense or anything. They pulled me up strictly because of my plates.
A misdemeanor.
Yeah.
The most you can do is fine you. Very
Well,
minimal.
I was in jail for 5 days.
Oh my God.
My main argument is against the arraignment judge, who's told the clerk to enter a plea for me, and they set a tremendous amount of bond, which is ridiculous.
What kind of jail were you put in? Both you and Joe?
It was Collin County Jail.
You see, this is the thing. What they're doing is they're really raising the sentences to put people into private prisons.
Yeah.
And because they make a lot of money off each one of you that go into prison, right?
They get the bonds and all that stuff.
It's coming right from the Attorney General. Pam Bondi is a former lobbyist for the private prisons. So they're all lining their pocket here. And they have to criminalize the population to do it. And this is the bigger agenda. This is the bigger reason that's going on. It's all about money, right? And so it's really important whenever you tell what happens, say what prisons it's in. We can then research to see if they're owned by Geo or any of these other companies, right?
I want to add, the reason I was in jail so long because I had to clear up some other warrants they had out.
Oh, yeah.
But they're just traffic violations, stuff that I.
Well, that's not reason enough to keep you in jail, though.
You're right.
Yeah.
And when I got the paperwork on I got bought out and all those tickets got paid for, but they all said not guilty, enter a plea of not guilty, but I never did enter a plea. So I got to look at that also.
So
Well,
that's
I
a,
understand it.
yeah.
Before you enter a plea, you're accused. After a plea is entered, then you become a defendant. That's a big difference.
Right.
So that's why you don't never enter a plea. But anyway, I went to go get did a FOIA request on all the
Yeah.
stuff in that case, and they
Yeah.
never filed a case. They said they got 2 years to file a case. So there's still no case filed on that one by the license plate.
So what did they tell you your status was? Are you kind of on ice? Are you, or
Yeah,
what?
right.
Yeah.
Another case too, some months ago, they pulled me over for no license plate. They pulled me out of the car and threw me to the ground. They charged me with failing to ID, resisting arrest, and tampering with government plates. Well, the arraignment judge said, check here and sign. Well, I checked the indigent and I signed without prejudice. And then I realized I shouldn't have checked that, so I filed a rescission of my signature on that, where they wanted me to. I mean, it was initials, not a check mark. They told me initial it, and that happened many months ago, and I never heard back from them at all. So
Just
I don't know what
fraud.
to do.
This is the point. When fraud's being perpetrated, it invalidates, that's that saying in common law, fraud vitiates or nullifies all agreements. So when you prove that fraud is going on, you can walk. I mean, they have no right to do anything to you, right?
Yeah.
I mean, in
Well,
theory, we know how it works in practice, so that they're a fraudulent system. But have you? I can dig these out for you. There are cases in America where people drive without license plates or insurance, and they've won in court citing Magna Carta. Because if you read Magna Carta, which is at the back of the common law training manual, we've reprinted it. It gives the inherent right of the people to travel on the public highways unimpeded, right? So you could say, and they made the case that having to have insurance and that is restricting your Magna Carta freedom of movement, right? And it's one in America, right? I've got to dig up the cases and what jurisdiction it's in, but you can cite those cases, right, in your own defense, saying there's nothing obligating me under Magna Carta to have a license.
yeah, from what I understand, if they use their emergency lights to pull you over for a non-emergency, that's a felony crime.
There you go.
And my philosophy, anything after that is fruit from the poisonous tree.
Right.
So,
Right.
but argument in court's a different thing. You got to get the
Yeah.
judge to agree.
Yeah.
They don't want to agree against somebody on their side. So.
Yep. Yep. It's a rigged
Hey,
deck.
Kevin, are you familiar with Todd Duell?
I think
He's
so.
a-
The name's familiar. Yeah.
He's the son of a judge. And he said back in the 80s when he was growing up, his father was a judge. And that's when Reagan started using bonds to fund the prison industry.
Oh, yeah.
That's when they rolled these out. And then since then, yeah, the bonds have been getting, or the bail's been getting higher and higher. And it's not the appearance bond, it's the bid, performance, and payment bonds that they file using our social security number.
And
Oh.
using aggravated identity theft to do it.
Yes. Yeah, but and then what he's been teaching is how to go after them because they're doing aggravated identity theft, securities fraud, tax evasion.
System's criminal.
Yeah.
So,
No way around it.
the American judicial system is the biggest criminal enterprise in the nation.
Yeah.
So,
Kevin,
go ahead.
I don't know if you really understand what we're dealing with here, but I'll give you a little input. Well, about the year 2014, I was doing a stem cell project with a bunch of citizens. We had a private membership association called the Society for the Study of Cellular and Molecular Biology, and I had about 1,000 members in that private membership association. I was told by the fellow who was selling the legal work that we could do whatever we wanted up to a level of a clear and present danger of a substantive evil. And I had a situation where I had 1,000 people, they were all happy. No one complained. There was no criminal or any other complaint. And I was arrested and charged with practicing medicine without a license. And I went before the medical board and I told them what I was doing, and ultimately they dismissed the case against me. Shortly after that, about a month, the prosecutor and the judges found out that I had a small airplane and some money. So they seized my property, and they don't understand what constitutes practicing medicine, but they put me on trial, and ultimately I was convicted. I filed 14 motions to dismiss for lack of subject matter jurisdiction. The judge in the case held all of the paperwork, and I went down there, and in front of the judge, he just wrote dismissed, 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 dismissed to all of my objections, to all of my motions. And there was an indictment that did not have a name on it of an injured party. So the judge said, we'll have to fix that. And right in front of me, he wrote names on the indictment, and the district attorney was standing right there. So then ultimately, they had me out. I was out on bond. I spent about 3 or 4 weeks in the county jail. And ultimately, they put me on a phony trial, and was convicted. And I had a statutory right to a bond. They would not allow that. So, no, excuse me. They did give me a bond, and then I was out for 2.5 years, and then we had a trial, and I was convicted on 16 counts of practicing medicine without a license, and I appealed that, and ultimately the state of Texas Court of Criminal Appeals, in their decision, said the trial court never acquired subject matter jurisdiction, and there were no felonies. During that period of time, I was behind bars for much of that time. Randy Kelton researched and looked through the papers, and what he found was the dismissal of the case by the medical board, and he said it looks like the medical board didn't think there was anything here. The court and the prosecutor decided they wanted to steal your property, so they ran you through their phony trial. And then I was sent down on the border between Texas and Mexico, where it's hotter than hell, because they were trying to kill me. There's no air conditioning in Texas jails. I don't know if you know that. So that's the kind of thing. I was innocent. They all knew I was innocent. They all knew that they had no jurisdiction. They all knew that there were felonies. I spent time behind bars. They tried to murder me, and they seized my property. And this was divided between 4 courts. And Randy said, what the hell is this? Why are these people dividing up this case? And I went before 4 different judges,
Yeah.
and they were splitting up the proceeds.
Right,
So-
and also it's harder to trace, but where does the buck stop if it's 4 different courts doing it? So.
Well, whatever. So the bottom line was I was always innocent. Nobody got hurt. There was no complaint by an injured party. There was no criminal complaint. There was absolutely nothing. They ran me through this phony bullshit, and I came out the other side, and I looked like I had come out of Auschwitz.
Mm-hmm.
These people are dangerous criminals. I don't know if you know who you're messing with, but they're psychopaths, and they're convinced they're right, and they want to steal your money, and they don't mind figuring out how to murder you.
Of course.
So
No.
look legit.
We encounter this all over. I've encountered it like in my own life constantly, and it's the same deal, right? We're talking about the same beast, and it would be great if you could, like we say, putting together this library of people's cases. If you could be filmed saying what you just told us, it'd be great, because it's an even more blatant example, right?
It's preposterous. It's just so, and every day they get worse. There's more bullshit. More innocent people go behind bars, and who knows how many innocent people have been murdered. When I was behind bars, they have these innocence projects. I'm sure you're aware of them. Where I was, 61% of the people behind bars, according to the innocence projects, never did anything, and I was one of them.
Yeah.
So,
I know it's, well, please, film, try to make it to about 5 minutes. Just a
Okay.
statement, what happened, bang, 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 and we can put that in this thing we're doing.
very good. Thank you.
Thank you.
Anybody else? Well, I think that's about it on our end, Kevin.
Okay. So we should talk again in the new year about how to proceed in getting this, in terms of begin to build support for your court.
Right.
Let's do that video project of people's testimonies. We could somehow do it in the next couple of weeks. That'd be great. And we can start with that. I'm also going to talk to the 2 American magistrates in the ICLCJ and see how to start the process once you send me the stuff.
And next week, you're going to talk to us about the Vatican, right?
Yeah, like a week today, same time.
Yeah, a week from today. So if everybody can read Kevin's book, Overthrowing a Rogue Power.
Dethroning. Look it up on Amazon. Kevin Annett, Dethroning a Rogue Power.
What's that, Darren?
What time do you want to start in this?
12 p.m., same time.
So that's on the 6th, right?
Yes. Yeah, 6.
Got it. Oh, and so the time again was when?
12 p.m. Central.
12 p.m. Central. Okay, got it.
Next year.
Got it. Great. Well, good luck, everyone. You know.
Another question.
Oh yeah, sorry.
So I got this case in Denton, the one that I said I filed a rescission of my initials, and it's been pending since May, I think. And I never hear anything from them. How can I like get the case dismissed? I dismiss it because of a lack of speedy trial, or on what grounds would that work?
Yeah, and the is it the Fifth Amendment? They talk about trial should not be delayed. Well, in Magna Carta, justice shall not be delayed or denied, which means you have a right to petition saying, I want the case brought into court. Well, like habeas corpus writ, right? But it might be called something different where you are. You'd have to find out what they call it, and I would submit it right away.
Okay. And the other case were in the last incident, they don't file a case. They said they got 2 years to file it, but I'm wondering how I can handle that one, because they never did respond to my FOIA request either. I asked for the number of records and stuff. And also, I filed a internal affairs investigation report about how they handled everything. And
Is it a civil case or a
yeah,
criminal?
so it's about my private license plate.
All right. Well, that should be pretty easy, ideally, right? I mean,
If they don't file a case, what can I use to generate anything?
I don't know the specifics of your local statutes or law, but you'd have to find out. Ask somebody who knows Texas law that.
Okay. Because, like I said, I went to get the case number. They said that there's no case. Yeah. So
They've said that?
So I went to get a case number. They said there's no case. They never filed an actual case number. So that's what I'm dealing with. I don't have anything to address if there's no case number.
If there's no case number, then it can't be a case, right? Legally?
Right. From what I understand. Yeah. Well, you know more than I do.
Well, no, I don't about Texas civil law, but
Okay.
you'd have to ask somebody who knows. I don't want to steer you in the wrong direction.
I got you. I appreciate it.
Okay.
We'll see you next week then. Thanks.
Okay, brother. Thanks.
Thanks, Kevin.
Okay, I'll see you guys in a week. Anything come up, just write to me, Ken.
You got it.
See you all later.